Hello and welcome back to the Loyal Sons Show. That's at the Loyal Sons on all of your social medias. Follow us here and follow us there for Pitt sports content you will not want to miss. If you love that football season is approaching, but hate the fact that the offseason lasted exactly 3 millennia, this is the place for you. The Loyal Sons Show. A safe, sunshiny place for your Pitt Athletics fix. Guys, how did I do? That was 6 months, and that was off the dome. Haven't done an intro since the Bay of Pigs invasion, but I think we nailed that one. Welcome back, fellas.
Yeah, aside from me putting in our old transition music to start the video there, that's a little bit on me. We'll wipe that off. But you were flawless. Your transition, your intro.
Thank you.
Sounds like we didn't take a day off, even though we took about 6 months to the day, actually, since the last episode dropped. But it's like riding a bike.
I had to quite literally dust off my microphone. There was a lot of dust gathered on it. And prior to this, we were all struggling to figure out how to get our audio to work. But after that, like you said, like riding a bike, we're here and we're ready for Pitt.
There's so much cat hair on my mic, and I didn't notice it until Squid said something, and now I'm just kind of doing it live anyway.
Well, if you sneeze, we can edit. So no, we won't be doing editing.
Zero editing.
But we're back. That's what matters.
We are back after months of your pleas, you Panther Nation pleading us to turn the microphone back on for whatever reason, because you are as big of sick freaks as we are. We are back in the studio to talk about Pitt football. Before we get into anything of actual relevance, though, I think we owe it to the people, to Panther Nation, to tell them where we have been for the last 6 months, why we have not been on the mics, why we forsook.
I know you're the grammar guy. You
Forsook.
It's not that.
Why they were forsaken. Does anyone have a reasonable explanation for this?
Reasonable? No, but I do have excuses. Well, I got married in May, so congrats to me. That took some planning and some time, and maybe time away from the podcast mic. But that's one of the big life events the show has seen since we last recorded. It probably also had a little bit to do with the Pitt basketball team completely burning out and crashing and giving us nothing positive to talk about. With nothing that really got us back to the mics. But yeah, we had some busy times, some things we had to deal with. Also countless bachelor parties and other weddings.
Yeah, not to steal your thunder, Dylan, but I also got married in July. And something I could have never foreseen. Wedding planning is a lot of effort, even when you are the groom and you kind of expect just to like sleepwalk into the day of. Still a lot of things that had to be done, and I couldn't juggle my two loves, podcasting and my literal wife. So I had to choose.
I didn't get married, for those wondering at home. So I had to go to both of your weddings, and that was a lot of effort as well. You know, someone's going to drink all the beer and be there. So that was me.
The most desired bachelor in the Pitt podcast realm, Squid, still has the title. Don't worry, ladies.
I did pitch a Netflix show, like Who Wants to Date a Podcaster? Didn't get picked up, but there's still time.
Keep plugging away.
Yeah.
And,
there's a lot of money out there for content on like the streaming services. So you could probably get that on like Tubi or something.
Oh, yeah. They approve any reality show these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Squid, there's a pot for every lid, or a lid for every pot. And one of these days, some beautiful young lady is going to show up to one of our tailgates and rattle off every Pitt starting quarterback since 1984, and you're going to know.
If that happens, I will propose to whoever that person is.
So, ladies, if you're out there, Squid, the most eligible bachelor in Pittsburgh. But no, so we spent all summer getting married. Dylan had a beautiful wedding in Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. I had a wedding in equally beautiful Butler County, Pennsylvania, a month later. And so it left little time for podcasting. But Dylan pointed out something really important. We also just didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We were fresh off of 6 consecutive losses and a bowl loss to a middle of the pack MAC team in Toledo, a game that Pat Narduzzi seemed to really have no interest in winning. And then gotta bring everybody back. And then we had a historic Jeff Capel collapse and a seemingly extremely talented Pitt team just looking like the worst basketball squad in the country. And with the bleak outlook of both of those guys being owed so much money by the university that we couldn't conceivably fire them, we decided that we didn't want to do this.
Yeah. So I'm just looking. Our last 2 episodes were, the most recent episode was, the topics of this episode were the Capel collapse and Kenny Pickett is a Super Bowl champion. So that's how long it's been since we recorded. But in our last 2 episodes, we discussed firing Jeff Capel, and the previous episode prior to that, we discussed firing Pat Narduzzi. We ran out of coaches to call for their jobs, so that left us short of podcast content until right now.
And you know what? I'm not going to lie. I really enjoyed having my Monday nights free. I was not necessarily missing this. I still see you guys like 3 times a week. So there was not necessarily a big hole in my life. But as we crept closer to football season, I started stockpiling all these opinions. I started getting that little itch in the neck, and the body yearns for the podcast microphone. So I'm happy to be here. I hope you guys are too, and I'm excited to bring another year of horrible analysis to our faithful listeners.
We got a decent amount of people asking us when there's going to be another episode. Hey, what's up with the pod? Is it dead? But I think shout out to Jim Hammett for really lighting a fire under us. Sent us a screenshot from the Panther Lair forums. Someone started a thread asking a Loyal Sun show, like, is it dead? Do you guys know? And a few of the replies were, oh yeah, it's been dead for a while. They're done. They probably just fizzled off into the sunset. And I was like, you know what? No, we're not going out that way. So sent it to the boys, and we all decided that it was time. We put it off about as long as we can, but football season's here, and we will have opinions. And this is really the only way to healthily, somewhat healthily, share those opinions and vent on our Monday nights.
So we're here to burden you with our thoughts for at least one more year. And genuinely thank you to everyone who reached out to us and asked. I really didn't think anyone would notice that we stopped making episodes, but people reached out, people asked, and your efforts, your love brought us here today. So thanks to you guys. And I don't know, without much further ado, boys, I say we get into it.
Let's do it. Let's do some real podcasting here. So yeah, we've been gone for 6 months. We've said that about 5 times already, but we figured we can't just completely breeze over the fact that we haven't talked about anything Pitt related for the entire half of a year. So in the way that we know best, we actually decided to fire it back up, get the gears turning again with a good old Mount Washington. You've listened to us in the past, you probably know. This is where we give our Mount Rushmore, only Pittsburgh version, Mount Washington of a certain topic. This time we're going to do Mount Washington of topics we would have loved to discuss on the pod over the past 6 months. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but you know what we're getting at here. And also, in typical Loyal Sons fashion, we did not decide a draft order for the Mount Washington until right now. So someone figure out how we're going to decide the draft order.
I say Squid goes first because he doesn't have the benefit of a tax break like Dylan and I are about to get. Is that how it works? I actually have no idea. Have not looked into it even a little bit, but I just figured we could single out Squid, no pun intended, a little bit further on this episode.
I won't disagree.
All right. Well, Squid can start, and then who goes second, who goes third? Squid, you choose.
There we go.
We don't get to make decisions anymore.
We're going David next because you quit our NCAA Dynasty League. So you go last now.
Wow, Dylan.
Yeah.
Called out.
That's fair. I deserve that. Couldn't bring myself to buy the game another year. I just wasn't very good at it. And
You're better than me.
Yeah. Didn't you beat me last time we played? All I know is 15-year-old me couldn't have imagined not buying the new college football game. He would be very ashamed to see where 29-year-old me is now. But okay, draft order set. And I think for this one, we have enough. I would say we have enough topics we don't really need to snake this draft. We can go with a fixed draft order. I'm okay.
Wow.
With that.
Even more of an advantage to me. Bring it on.
Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, this is just topics we missed. It doesn't have to be good things. I have some bad things. Yep.
No. Yeah.
The universe gives and takes. Yeah.
So I think the first and biggest one is Jalen Lowe leaving Pitt. I think that was a big thing, and it would just tie in so well with where we're at in the whole Capel era, and we could have had a whole obituary to Pitt basketball because since that moment, optimism is at an all-time low since he got here, and that's actually saying a good bit. So Jalen Lowe leaving is my first pick.
Yeah, I think we could have got some mileage out of that. With that, Jalen Lowe going to the University of Kentucky, I think when Jalen Lowe entered the portal, it was kind of accepted that he would end up somewhere pretty good, a pretty respectable program. He put up good numbers here, was a pretty sought-after recruit. But I know Miami had been floated out there. It was like, oh, that's kind of a lateral move in the ACC. And they just ended up in Kentucky. And we're like, oh, he's absolutely just going to be awesome there. We're going to be so mad watching Kentucky games next year in March. And Jalen Lowe's hitting big shots in the tournament. But that's just how it's going to work out for us.
Hitting big layups. You can't convince me he's going to develop a jump shot. I went a little bit more macro with a lot of my picks. A lot has changed in college sports since we last picked up the mic. I'm going to go my first pick, the House versus NCAA ruling. Student athletes are employees of their colleges now. The unthinkable has happened. Collegiate sports has existed since 4 years after the Civil War, and it's all been based on amateurism. And with one court ruling, you now have about $22 million to play with in your athletic department to pay your athletes. And the role of collectives was completely removed from the sport. and then they were kind of given a backdoor to still be part of the sport. And a lot of complicated stuff has happened with the governing bodies of the. Yeah, this is a lot less interesting than Squid's thing, but still very important. So I'm just going to kick it on over to Dylan. But yeah, the total complexion of college sports has changed since our last episode, and it's different, better or worse, different.
We'll find out.
Definitely different. It gives some guidelines in this wild, wild west world of NIL, but also collectives are still going to find a way to play a role. But, time will tell. Alan Green will take his word for it that Pitt was prepared for this and they're in a good spot. But that's all we really have on that front is his word. Okay, well, there's a lot on the board here, and there's a lot of different directions I could go. I'm going to go with one that I think we definitely would have got mileage out of on multiple occasions. Kenny Pickett's a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah.
And so initially, when Kenny signed with Cleveland, I think we would have discussed how this gives him a fresh opportunity, gives him a chance to be a starter somewhere in the NFL, albeit with the Browns, who have such a track record of development of quarterbacks and helping them go on to bigger and better things. I'm sure we would have been very positive about that. So we would have got a good bit of an episode out of that. And then they drafted Dylan Gabriel, and then they drafted Shedeur Sanders in the same draft. And they also have Joe Flacco. So now Kenny Pickett is part of the most ridiculous, least thought out quarterback room in the NFL. And the hits keep coming for KP.
Oh, we would have cried the blues. We would have bitched for 45 minutes. Just cried the absolute blues about Kenny being a Brown. I just want to throw out my 5 or 6 favorite collegiate quarterbacks of all time. Lamar Jackson ended up in the AFC North. Johnny Manziel ended up in the AFC North. Baker Mayfield, AFC North. Kenny Pickett ended up on the Browns. Joe Burrow ended up on the Bengals. My 5 favorite college quarterbacks ever ended up on division rivals of the Steelers.
Number 6, Christian Veer is going to end up on the Steelers.
Sure, I'm sure they have like some front office positions available, like an intern or something. Christian Veer, by the way, still might be starting this year at Georgia Southern.
Yeah,
Georgia Southern, Georgia State.
I constantly forget which is which. One's in Atlanta.
Yeah, right. I think Georgia State, but once again, who cares?
Next one involves another Pitt player leaving. Julian Duggar hitting the portal. Over time, I've come to terms with this, that is probably just fine, and he might just be like the 4th quarterback on Washington State's depth chart. But at the time, big move. Pitt fans were hopeful he could either be next up or even contend for QB1. But now he is in the
Pac-2.
The Pac-2, yeah. I was trying to remember what they call that, if they even call it anything. But he's there and he's not here. And Pitt fans were mad because you have to be mad whenever somebody you kind of like leaves, even if they probably weren't going to do anything. So very controversial topic in the Pitt community. So it's a shame we weren't around for that one, because that would have caused a lot of commotion.
We would have talked a lot about a thing that in the end is massively inconsequential.
Yeah, I think like Duggar was like a stop on a overtime conversion, or like a conversion in overtime, and Pitt winning the game above Sports Bowl, away from like a majority of the Pitt fan base pushing for him to be QB1 next year, and us like having just the most ridiculous conversations about it. Spin zone here. We shredded Narduzzi for not starting him in the game above Sports Bowl. Was Narduzzi actually in the right? He was afraid that Julian Duggar would ball out against Toledo and get poached by a Pac-2 team or others.
If Narduzzi was a little bit more aware and savvy, I would say 100%. But I don't think he thought that far ahead.
No. I think what happened here is Narduzzi's bad at personnel decisions, and then Mason Heinschel showed up and bumped Julian Duggar down the depth chart, which I think is a good thing, and I'm sure.
Right.
Actually, looking at the show notes, Heinschel's going to come up again later in the episode, but I kind of took Duggar leaving as probably a sign of good things.
Yeah, I thought, you know what? Duggar leaving, it's fine. He's not going to play. And then about a week or two ago, Washington State posted a clip of him like tucking and running for 40 yards and a touchdown, and all of a sudden it was like, he's going to be the next Lamar Jackson. What did we do?
Remains to be seen here, but if I was a betting man, I would say Mason Heinschel is a better college quarterback than Julian Duggar when all is said and done. But we'll see.
According to our lads, Duggar is QB4 at Washington State.
We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep Duggar watch as a part of the portal, part of that show.
Wish him well. Love when Whippeal kids ball out.
For sure.
We would have gotten tens of thousands of miles out of my next selection, and that is the Big Ten's fight to make the playoff an invitational. The Big Ten has been pushing this entire offseason for, I believe it's called the 4-4-2-2. Doing mental math.
Yeah, that
4-4-2-2-4. Because then it'd be a 16-team playoff, right? Either way, semantics aside, they have been pushing for 4 Big Ten teams to automatically qualify for any playoff going forward, which is insane. I mean, it's anti-competitive. It completely ignores the history of that league as only having like 2 or 3 competitive teams any given year. And it's just evidence that Tony Petitti is a gross moron who I hate. But the story behind it is actually really funny. This was absolutely the SEC's idea, and they got the Big Ten on board. And then when the SEC saw how unpopular it was among fans for 2 conferences to automatically get 8 total bids, they left the Big Ten at the altar. And now Petitti is fighting for this thing alone and just getting absolutely ripped to shreds in the media. And we could have been part of that if we had just fired up the mics in like June.
I think the most worked up day of our 6-month hiatus was Big Ten Media Day.
Yes.
Seeing all of the quotes about how a 4-loss Big Ten team should not be eliminated from playoff consideration. Whenever I read that, it was funny because I was like, this is outrageous. I was firing away on Twitter, but to see hundreds and thousands of people also replying, this is so fucking dumb, that just made me happy, because it's often times everyone's like, oh yeah, the Big Ten, they're all this and that. But no, even those Big Ten homers were like, no, this is stupid.
Yeah. What was equally as frustrating?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, yeah, Petitti's like just public enemy number 1 at this point. But yeah, the quote from Big Ten Media Days that kind of stirred it all up. Quote, there seems to be some feeling in college football that somehow if you're 8-4, you're not really a good football team. These conferences have gotten so much bigger and deeper. That's a pretty good winning percentage last time I checked. Can an 8-4 team win a playoff game? I don't know why people have made up their minds that they know the answer to that before a game is even played.
Disgusting.
I mean, that's what the 12 games before are for, buddy.
Yeah, and what was especially hilarious about Big Ten Media Day was how clear it was that he sent like bullet points to every coach, because every coach in their press junket hit the same points, that the Big Ten is difficult enough that it deserves, 4 automatic qualifiers. This is the hardest conference in football, and then just throw a wild stray at the SEC for only playing 8 conference games. And it was just so gross to watch all of those and all those disparate personalities like chill for the same anti-college football lunatic that is Tony Petitti.
Yeah, we got some good mileage out of it right there.
I knew we would.
All right. My next pick here, more Pitt-centric. Roman Cialupa, the Australian rugby player who is now a Pitt basketball player. When it first came out that Roman was looking to come play basketball for Pitt, there were a couple things out there. My first thought was why. Apparently, he was the top Australian basketball prospect in his class, and also was a very well-renowned rugby player. And there was some questions whether he would decide to play rugby for his future or if he was going to play basketball. Also, some other interesting pieces of this. He was a teammate of Lamar Patterson in Australia, so that's allegedly played a role in him coming to Pitt. There was some relationship there that was like, hey, if you want to go play in the States, I played at Pitt. Also, if he's so good, why did he pick Pitt has gone through my mind. There was some conversations about maybe Kansas and Bill Self being involved, which I would like to believe, but also find hard to believe if Kansas really wanted this kid. Like, how did Pitt get him other than a big duffel bag full of cash, and or he just loved Lamar Patterson so much as a role model that he wanted to make him proud. Somewhere in between is probably the right answer. But yeah, that was, I mean, if we would have just got on here one day and said, yeah, there's a really good rugby player in Australia who might play basketball at Pitt, David's head would have been spinning. It would have been like April. He was like, wait a second, what? Basketball, rugby? Huh?
Though it's the two most hilarious sports for one person to be good at.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's a world-renowned football player and also badminton star. Like, I'm trying to, like, the body types of these two types of athlete are so different. It's breaking my brain a little bit, but I'm excited to see it. Clearly, dude's got to have a chip on his shoulder, a little gravel in his eye.
It also would have been hilarious because it was such a long and drawn out process. People were saying months and months ago that he was coming to Pitt. Otherwise, he might come to Pitt, and then a couple months later, he's probably going to go to Pitt. And then it was like, he's going to go to Pitt. They just can't announce it yet. Then a few months later, he actually came to Pitt. So I feel like we would have had like a Roman watch segment. Like every week we'd tune in and be like, all right, what did they say on the message boards or like the deep pockets of Twitter? And it would have been crazy to keep up with. It is crazy. I think we still have got a lot more out of it. Pitt basketball is at least decent. So, yeah, unfortunate on both ends there. My next pick, about our good old rival, Rich Rodriguez being hired. I forget exactly when that happened, but that would have been fun to talk about because the firing of Neil Brown was hilarious. Everyone saw it coming. He deserved it. And then passing the torch to our old pal, Rich Rod. The memories.
So, Squid, I did check this before throwing it on my list. He was named West Virginia's football coach December 12th. So we did record an episode since then, but it definitely was not mentioned because we were too busy bashing Narduzzi's personnel decisions in the Game Above Sports Bowl. So I say we let it play.
Good call. Good research.
At the very least, if we were like head on a swivel, fully in the game at that point, we would have had a segment discussing what your reaction would be if Pitt rehired Dave Wanstead.
Yeah. Yeah, and we probably would have discussed how Rich Rod said he has 5 QBs that he's confident in. So, yeah, we would have discussed more than once about Rich Rod back at Pitt, or back at the West Virginia, back to losing to Pitt.
Honestly, we could probably footnote that one and add all of the insane hard ass quotes that Rich Rod has put out since the start of training camp. Just
none of the players can finish practice.
Just ripping his own players and staff to absolute shreds publicly.
Yeah.
That shit might have flown in the early 2000s, Rich. Next one. I don't think I've touched on a Pitt related topic yet, and I think I'm just going to keep riding that. The Nico saga at Tennessee. We would have been on that like white on rice. Another completely unprecedented situation in college sports. The entrenched high ceiling starter of a playoff team left one of the top programs in terms of logo and prestige and money and whatever else you want to attribute to Tennessee for more money. Well, he thought it would be more money. He actually took a pretty sizable pay cut to go to a terrible UCLA team. But that whole saga was just insane. And I know you guys would have had some real funnies about it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the Nico story is, I mean, it's one thing for a guy to just like completely leave his team in the dust. One Jordan Addison we can reference there. And just hop and go. But Nico was, and his family or whoever was in charge there, his dad, his agent, whoever it may have been, was just trying to kind of hold Tennessee hostage. And Tennessee was eventually like, all right, we're not doing this anymore. And then it got word out there. And it would be one thing if Nico would have just bolted and been like, well, I already had a deal set up with Ohio State. And now Ohio State has their new quarterback to, try to defend their national championship. But then the more and more developed, it was like, I mean, is he going to end up at Tulane? Is he going to end up, none of these major programs want to touch him after what happened? I mean, apparently Dan Lanning reached out to Josh Heupel and said, hey, your quarterback's kind of sniffing around here if you want to get on that.
Lanning blew the whistle on him. He was squeezing Tennessee for more money. And then when Lanning called Heupel and said, hey, your quarterback's dad is trying to shop him to us, that's when everything blew up.
Another point in the Dan Lanning column, just all around seems like a cool dude as far as college football coaches go. It's another point for him.
Yeah, but hey, great call, Nico. You are now playing for a team that is certainly going to go 6-6, is not going to give you the development that you, based on last year, clearly need, and you're making half the money. Great move. Sorry, not Nico. Nick, your dad. Your dad screwed you, Nico.
Well, I'll go back with another Pitt-centered topic here, since David apparently didn't miss talking about Pitt at all. So this is one that I think we probably would have made a bigger deal out of at the time. Eli Holstein was not picked to go to ACC Media Days and represent Pitt. Was this a big nothing burger? Probably. Would we have absolutely, in the dog days of podcasting in July, stretched this to maybe an entire episode? We could have done it in our prime. We could have made that happen back in the days where we were recording every week throughout the summer. So nothing burger, maybe. Or was it a message being sent by Narduzzi? Like, Eli, you sucked in the spring, so I'm not sending you to Charlotte. Or was Eli like, I kind of have like a family vacation that weekend. I don't want to go.
It was probably the most I ever agreed with Narduzzi on a quote in a long time. I think at one point, I don't know if he was down there or after the fact, he was like, yeah, the last 2 times I took the quarterback, it just didn't work out, so I'm not going to do it this time. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right, Pat. It didn't work out the last 2 times.
Squid, your call.
Is this my third pick here?
This is your fourth.
Fourth. Yep, I can count.
My fourth. What was my third? Hello, Rich Rod.
Julian Duggar to the portal.
Duggar. Okay, yep. So my last one. One of these is actually good. This one's pretty funny. So I'm going to choose Andy Jean coming to Pitt and then leaving Pitt in a matter of months without playing a game. Was I excited for Andy Jean? No. He didn't do anything, but
Squid, can you inform the people who Andy Jean is? Because I would wager that most Pitt fans don't even know who that is.
Yeah, he transferred here from Florida, and he did not play. And I guess after the spring game was like, yeah, I'm out, boys. So I don't know the exact duration of his time as a Pitt Panther, but it was from like January to early spring. So good riddance.
He's now an Arkansas Razorback, for what it's worth.
I mean, good for him. I guess that's still a pretty good school. But my point being, I was not excited for him. We have so many receiver transfers. We've had guys from big name schools come and do nothing. But if you went through fall camp and there was a nice 5-second clip for making a catch, or Pat Narduzzi said, Andy Jean has looked good, then I'd be like, yo, he might be wide receiver 2, maybe 3. This is like the missing receiver. So I probably would have came around on him if there was like the smallest bit of hype. But mainly just because it's a funny situation.
Yeah, I mean, very, very college football 2025. I've pigeonholed myself here by committing to doing non-Pitt related things. But this I know would have absolutely led a show. Shedeur Sanders dropping to the 5th round. We have, for whatever reason, decided that Colorado is our sworn nemesis. Not for whatever reason. Our head coach went back and forth with Dion, and then too many Colorado fans, well, not Colorado fans, those don't exist. Too many Dion fans found the comment section to our YouTube. So now we are sworn nemesis. And we would have taken a little bit of joy on his overly cocky, overexposed son getting dropped to the 5th round because he's an asshole.
Yeah, we would have got some. I mean, that also would have just went hand in hand with us discussing how the whole Kenny Pickett situation. But yeah, wait, I didn't want to say it because I was like, well, this has nothing to do with Pitt, but it absolutely would have made its way onto the airways, especially in April. So that's a fair pick. Wow, there's still a lot here that I could go with. I have some good ones, some extras. I was worried just in case you guys took all of mine. I'm gonna go with something positive here. Should I go with the positive one? I guess the other ones will just get dropped in the honorable mentions. The Pitt guys drafted, but especially our boy Bart, Gavin Bartholomew, was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. 2-time partner in the Loyal Sons golf outing. All around good guy, and a guy that we were singing his praises and begging for the Pitt Football Panthers to use for the last 3 years of his career here. And there was some validation there. It was like, did we just make this all up in our head that this guy's like a freak and super talented? And was it just because we golfed with him a couple times and he was a good guy to us and we're thinking he's better? But no, the NFL personnel thought highly enough of him to take him in the 6th round of the NFL draft. And now he is on an NFL roster. That's our guy. Also, Branson Taylor and Kanate Mumpfield also taken in the draft. But obviously the praise would have mostly went to our boy Bart. Congrats to him. We never got to congratulate him on the show, and that was pretty awesome. I remember we were actually at Cork Harbor, I believe, when he got drafted, and I think I found one of you guys. And was this for your birthday, David? Your birthday? No, I don't think those times.
No, that
really
was
matched
because
up.
that was May 9th.
Okay.
When,
I don't know
my
what I
fake
was
birthday
thinking.
or my real birthday.
Your fake birthday.
My
So-
then fiance threw me a 30th birthday party, a surprise 30th birthday party, a full month before my 30th birthday to catch me off guard. And I'm not gonna lie, that was savvy. I was not expecting to have a birthday party a full 4 weeks before my birthday.
Okay. All that being said, we were at Cork Harbor for whatever reason it was. But I remember seeing that Bart's name popped up, and I was pumped about it. That was a cool moment. And yeah, shout out to Bart, man. He's in the league. I remember this. We were playing in the first outing, and we were playing with Bart, and we were a few holes in, and David just asked him on the tee box, what's it going to be like playing football for a paycheck one day? And Bart just answered him like, "Hey, that's the dream, right? Like, hey, this is probably going into his sophomore year. Yeah, it would have been going into his sophomore year." And it's like, "Hey, that's the dream, right?" And we're like, "Hell yeah, man! Like, to see it all come to fruition, pretty cool."
Yeah, when you get to like meet these kids and get to know them a little bit, it kind of makes you understand playing professional football a little differently. Like, obviously, we want Bart to go on and be an all-pro tight end, but even if he isn't, even if he doesn't crack the starting lineup, that guy is going to make software engineer at like senior manager at Salesforce money as like, like a third string tight end if it comes to that. I have faith he'll hop up in lineup, but it's just so cool because as sports fans we think like, oh, your career was nothing if you didn't have this many touchdowns or you didn't start this many years, make this much of an impact on the field. Just being in the NFL and making it and getting that league minimum is such a massive accomplishment that sets you up so well for life. And I'm so excited for him and all the Pitt guys that do make it.
So quick honorable mentions since we are what do I have here? Oh, Bub. Being drafted and having like a pretty great rookie season. That was something that could have kept us going and somewhat positive in the dog days.
Bub
Sincere
was
Edward,
drafted in like June of 2024. So, yeah, I mean, he finished his rookie season.
His rookie year. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
He had that sick buzzer beater end of the year.
He did.
Then Sincere Edwards leaving. I think David would have had an aneurysm and the sky was falling when that happened, amongst other people leaving.
Wait, Squid, am I about to break news to you that Bub Means is now out for the year?
Wait,
I thought that's where you were going with that. No, I'm
Bub
sorry. He's on IR. Nope, season-ending IR.
I was talking about Bub Carrington.
Did you say Bub Carrington or did I?
Well, I think I just said
said
Bub and started talking about basketball, and you
Oh,
probably, yeah.
Not
the
rusty
buzzer beater then.
All right. I'm incapable of thinking about basketball.
No, I have not thought about Bub Means in the last 6 months.
Well, that is news to me that he's on season-ending IR. Bub Means, that is. So, I guess we're back just in time to break the Bub Means news.
Yep. Okay. Did you have any other, Squid?
I'm good.
After that one went off just so swimmingly.
I had a couple. Duke's choke job in the NCAA tournament against Houston. That would have been fun. The Beanie Bishop Pitt beef at the Rooney complex. That one would have been fun. I'm still not exactly sure what happened there, but I would have read every tweet about it if we were still recording at that point. And then I know Squid would have talked about Indiana canceling all of its Power Four non-conference games. I know you would have, and it would have been justified because the Big Ten's answer to the SEC's 8-game conference schedule and general dominance has been, what if we all schedule, I don't know, like Florida International, Nevada, and Villanova, maybe. Yeah, just 3 random schools.
I am unashamed of how aware I am of all the Big Ten teams' non-conference schedules over the next 3 years. So that will come up at some point, and I should have picked that.
I knew football season was back when Swid was picking fights with our Penn State fan buddy, just over random Big Ten teams' strength of schedules. That's when I knew we were. That's when I knew it was time to start recording again, because football's basically back when that starts. Okay, I have a couple here. We've gone on long enough with this. But two big ones. Pitt Hoops season actually ended on one of the worst calls you'll ever see in a college basketball game. It was an absolutely phantom foul on Zach Austin that sent Notre Dame to the line and effectively ended their season. Most years of my adult life and childhood, that would have sent me into a spiral for an entire week. I was over it before I went to bed that night because I was like, well, at least this season's over. But their season did end on probably the most unjustified foul call I've ever seen. So we would have spent some time on that. Also, Panther Lair moves from Rivals to 24/7. Speaking of transfer portal news, we would have made all kinds of jokes about Peak and Jim Hammett hopping in the portal and, respect their decision, this and that. But yeah, if you weren't aware, you probably are. Panther Lair is no longer part of the Rivals network, but now on 24/7. So yeah, that's all I got here. I think we exhausted everything. So yeah, basically, if you really missed us that much for the last 6 months, you can just listen to the last 45 minutes of this episode 10 times, and it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah,
do that. Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys want to talk some football? I'm going to see if this transition works. We're absolutely not editing this episode, so let's see if this works. Give me 1 second.
Nice.
It worked. Well,
great.
Dave, why don't you lead us in? I mean, this is your time to shine. This is Brucey's time to shine.
Oh man, I wish that you had told me I was leading this segment.
Wait, do you need
before
another
we started
transition
doing
in
it.
5 seconds?
Welcome to Talking Football. It is me, your host, David, with my 2 dear buddies from high school, Dylan and Squid. We're going to talk about Pitt football. Do any of you guys think anything in particular or in general about Pitt football? How was that? Was that good?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
To answer your question, yeah, I'm approaching a 10-1 prediction. I wouldn't say I'm there yet, but we're getting closer as the days move on.
Yeah,
It's my favorite.
I was gonna say it took me longer this time. Typically, but by the time camp rolls around, I've already consumed enough, college football and Pitt content to have myself fully geared, ready to go. I waiting for the daily press conferences with the players, the media availabilities to drop throughout camp. I'm just finally hitting the point where daily I am keeping up with Narduzzi's media availability, the players' availability to hear what they have to say. And I'm moving into the territory of talking myself into this Pitt team. I'm not completely there yet. But, I have very selective hearing when it comes to Pitt. I hear that Cruz Brookins' name, and I've heard multiple guys call him Cruz, so we might have to finally confirm the correct pronunciation of his name. But Cruz Brookins' name being dropped enough to where I'm like, oh, he's going to have his breakout All-American season. I've heard Mason Heinschel's name enough that I'm like, well, now we have the future quarterback to lead us to a national championship. So I'm getting there.
Here real quick, Dylan. This is a new wrinkle in our investigation into Narduzzi's quotes, because in the past we've always had our this guy's going to break out because the coaches are talking about him a lot. And oftentimes it rings true. Kalijah Cansey, they were hyping up like no other, and he became Kalijah Cansey. Izzy got a lot of buzz.
Kyle Lewis got some buzz early on.
Got some buzz. The only miss was Bengali Kamara, but that was mostly not Narduzzi mentioning him. Everyone else was like, oh, yeah, he looks amazing. He'll be amazing. But my point here is now we have to sift through, do the coaches actually think this guy is really good, or are they saying this so they don't transfer?
Yeah.
You got to keep the guys happy now. Like Chris Brookins, he's a starter. Them hyping him up makes sense. Like they see him every day. He is the starter. They're excited about him. But like backup quarterbacks, like maybe that like number 7 receiver, if they're talking about him a lot, is it just to keep him happy and make him think, oh, if one guy goes down, I'm the next guy in? So I'm not sure how I feel about some of those guys that I hear or see on Twitter whenever everyone quotes or tweets Narduzzi's quotes. I got to think a little bit more about that.
Now, where do you think Blue Hicks falls into that spectrum? Because that is a name I've heard nonstop over the past couple weeks, and consider me blue curious. They're talking about him like lightning in the bottle. Could push to be the number 3 receiver behind Kenny Johnson and Poppy Williams, but that you want to get the ball in this guy's hands in space anyway that you possibly can. Where does your barometer fall on that one?
I think
the fact that he has a cool nickname makes me believe in him a lot easier. If his name was just like Richard Jones, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not buying it. But since what is his Instagram name? Blue Hunteds or
Blue Hunteds.
Yeah, I'm in. I think that's legit hype. He will have 700 yards.
Yeah, David, I think you kind of answered it with your statement there, pushing to be the number 3 receiver. I would love to tell you that Pitt's going to have 3 elite all ACC level receivers. I just don't see that happening, especially because we've seen the top 2 guys played for Pitt last year. They were serviceable, but weren't exactly, all-American type players. So if he's at best the 3rd best receiver, I think we're getting some lip service there. But if he's the 3rd best receiver and he's productive, Narduzzi did call him the best ball in hand guy they've had in a couple years, which I guess means he's electric with the ball in his hands. I hope we get to see that come to fruition. But I'm kind of slotting him in the kind of the Poppy Williams role of last year. Like, hey, he's going to be a solid receiver for us. Poppy Williams led the team in touchdowns last year, but I think he's kind of more in that realm of, role player wide receiver. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's great, but that's where I'm at on him right now.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm higher on our receiving room than most.
So, because I was actually just thinking earlier that I'm a little bit worried. Skill positions in general, I'm kind of worried about.
So they caught everything last year until they didn't. We watched that room kind of come apart when the rest of the team did. And not that I don't want to hold it against them, but it's a lot easier to play with your head and your shoulders down when everybody else around you is. I don't know. I think we've seen enough splashy stuff from Kenny Johnson and Poppy Williams and Sincerely that I believe that they can step into the vacancy left by Mumpfield and, fill it with some level of competence. Several schools tried to throw bags at Kenny Johnson, including one in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, apparently. And he stayed here. So other schools see the value. I actually like Poppy. And Sincere showed me enough. I'm hearing good things about Zion Fowlerell. Finally, hearing good things about Blue Hicks, and apparently there's a couple true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, who's Tony Kinsler is one of the names. I was going to say the names escape me, but that is one that sticks out. I've just been hearing that some of these kids can ball a little bit. And I think you can put together 3 or 4 guys who are competent at getting open and catching the football from that list of 7 names I just threw out there.
I like it. Yeah, I really do want to see Kenny Johnson take a step this year and be a true new number one. I think I put out just a ridiculous prediction. One of my bold predictions last year was that he was going to break out onto the scene, have a Jordan Addison-esque sophomore season. And he didn't. He didn't. 46 catches for 537. Not a terrible sophomore year. Still good production there, but not really what we were kind of predicting, hoping to see. So yeah, I hope he steps into that number one role. But yeah, outside of Desmond Reed, I feel like our skill position playmakers leave a little bit to be desired. The bright side of that is we do have Desmond Reed, who was one of the most electric all-purpose players, all-American all-purpose back in the country last year. So yeah, I have my concerns. I'm sure I'll talk myself into it. But Boosie Turner, Jakarian Turner is another name that's kind of been tossed around, true freshman running back. Pretty much going to be the number 3 running back by default behind Desmond Reed and Joels Goff. Basically, all the depth has evaporated in the running back room, so he's going to have to play early. But he has speed. If you look at his track numbers from high school, he's basically like 100-meter, 200-meter splits are right there with Des Reed's. So kind of has that same game-breaking speed, kind of the same size, smaller in stature, but shiftier back. And enough guys have said good things about him for me to get excited about him.
So we just talked at length about the receivers, but I know we are planning a full season preview next week. So
yeah, that was just a little teaser.
Just a little teaser. So I'm gonna turn over to you guys, and we're gonna do some content planning in real time. How can we give the people a taste of what we're thinking about this season without, putting the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse? Of course, the horse is in front of the cart. Without giving away too much in next week, what are you guys thinking? How can we close this out and leave the people satisfied and knowing that we are ready to roll for this football season?
So why don't we just leave it off with this? Where is your optimism level right now as of August 13th? 10 being ACC champions and a playoff berth, 1 being 3-9 with Phil Dracovic at the helm. Midway through the season. Where is your optimism level right now?
I'm back in front of this podcast mic again, aren't I?
It's got to be worth a point or two.
That's at least a 7.5.
So today, coincidentally, was one intern's final day, and he's a Duquesne student. So one of our final conversations was about what he thinks about Pitt and the Pitt Duquesne game. And I was like, what I think about Pitt, I don't know. I think there's a high variance. Ask me a different day, I'll think differently. But then we started talking about the Pitt Duquesne game, and I thought, you know what? They've got a bad taste in their mouth. They're going to hang like 70. Like, they're to come out. They won't limit the playbook. They got to get the fans back on board. They got to get the players bought back in. And as I was saying that, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, Pitt's going to score 70 on Duquesne and then just keep that momentum rolling. Like, the offense will be great. And then actually, I like the rest of the defense, even outside of the linebackers. So 8. I'm at an 8 out of 10.
What about you, Dylan? Yeah, you know what? I had originally when we were planning, when I was doing some prep for this episode, I originally typed 6. And then I typed a 6.5. And then I just bumped it up to 7 because I was like, you know what? I am feeling it a little bit. You know, it's getting there. I was thinking about our defensive line, who, you know, although somewhat of a lackluster performance last year, is loaded with some talent. There's a few 4 stars in that D tackle room. And yeah, I do think the mic, they say the camera adds 10 pounds. I think the microphone has to add a point. So I'm right there at an 8. I'm there at a Kenny Pickett. I'm not ready to say that this team is going to be playing in Charlotte in December. But I'm very close to, a week from now, a week and a half, whenever we do ultimately record the season preview. I can't promise that I won't be predicting 10-2 or 11-1 with an ACC championship berth. I can't promise you that won't happen. I can't promise you that it will happen, but I certainly can't promise you that it won't.
It's not a matter of if, but when we talk ourselves into 10 wins. And whether it's July and we are at a fever pitch, like, oh my God, this is a playoff team, or whether it's in the parking lot on the North Shore that Saturday morning before our week 1 game. We might be trending towards that a little bit, but we're going to watch
in the parking lot after game 1. After game 1, we just have to see the boys go at it live once. Maybe it takes 60 minutes of football.
I'm going to watch Kyle Lewis's highlight tape every night before bed until I'm there.
And I'll do that in solidarity with you.
I daydreamed about Pitt beating Notre Dame with Kenny Minchie starting for them today.
Yeah.
It's only August
13th. We have about 17 days, boys. 17 days to get there. Yeah, I think we're in a good spot. I don't think we're too high yet. We're not too low.
This is healthy.
This was healthy, getting the mics back out. So, yeah, we're in a great spot. I think the Panthers are in a great spot. And I can't wait until August 30th. But we've got some podcasting to do before then. We've got some predictions to make. Got to convince some people to predict 10 wins. They who will not be named. We will be convincing them. But yeah, we're in a good spot, boys. It's been a pleasure to be back with you. I think it's about time to wrap this up and start prepping for our season preview. Anything you want to leave us off with, either of you?
Adopted a second cat today, and I'm thinking feline Holstein.
That's better than anything I came up with. I was actually going to try to give you a couple. Cat Narduzzi is just like no brainer. It's almost too easy.
Nick Caddy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Carl Meowser.
Oh.
I know you have a few more in the chamber.
Actually, no. I've been told
just Cat Flood.
I've been told in no uncertain terms that we cannot name this one after a Pitt athlete, which is fair because as soon as we named our first one Kitty Pickett, his career fell off a cliff. So might be my wife looking out for Pitt Athletics.
All right. That works.
All right.
Well, This was good. We'll be back in about a week or so. We'll figure out when we're recording again. But appreciate you all tuning in. The boys are back. The Suns are back. Pitt football is almost back. As always, hail loyal Sons of Pittsburgh.